So today I'm gonna be presenting Power BI REST APIs and why they supposedly never work. Sometimes I'm gonna be looking that way because I have two screens. So uh, long story short, I used to work for Microsoft as a support engineer last year. Yeah, last year. I solved cases regarding everything from Power BI Service, Power BI Desktop, Power Query, etc. And mostly, I realized that there were a lot of questions regarding Power BI REST APIs because it is not well documented, I will say, to how to configure them and how to use them correctly. So that's gonna be my today's presentation mainly. This is the agenda. So why bothering using these APIs if they are so complex to configure, right? How can we interrogate these APIs? Because there are many, many different APIs, and every single month we get new APIs. Then we are going to move forward to a little demo. We're going to show you three ways to interrogate these APIs. Spoiler. So the first one is the try it button directly from the Microsoft page. The second one is from our favorite tool, Power BI Desktop. And the third one is the most complicated one, is going to be a little bit more of developing. And for that, I'm going to use Postman. Postman is a free tool that you can use directly on the web or you can download for free. And with Postman, we are going to realize what are service principal and what are master users account. What are the differences regarding APIs? And this is the difficult part. This is when it gets a little bit tricky, but I gotta try to keep it simple because if you don't configure them, either the service principal or the master user in a right way, it's gonna give you an error. Maybe you get an error 401 or 403 forbidden, whatever. And the main reason is that maybe it is not configured as it should be configured. Finally, if you stick with me, at the very end, I'm gonna share with you some very recommended content from a YouTube channel that is BI Elite. Maybe you already know them. If you want to keep track of the activities on your tenant. So who did what and when. So you can have some sort of logs on the maybe Power BI desktop, and you can realize who did what and when. So moving forward, who am I? So I'm talking. So who am I? I'm Victor Rivas. I was born and raised in Venezuela, but I've been living here in Italy for the last 7 years or so. So as I said, I'm an ex-Microsoft. I used to work with them until last year. I was a support engineer, so I used to solve cases for different companies all around the world. I'm Microsoft certified trainer for the previous year and this year. I'm gonna have to renew that certification this year. Scrum Master and both certifications of Power BI, Power BI Data Analyst, or PL 300. And well, thanks to Nicola, actually, I'm also Azure Enterprise Data Analyst. So he has a course that I totally recommend. So I'm a co-founder right now of Evergrow BI. So I help small and medium enterprises to solve their BI problems, mostly with Power BI. And let's move forward. So why bothering using Power BI REST APIs? So the thing is that sometimes it's even better or best practice to do some management of Power BI content or admin operations, like for example, refreshing a data set or rebinding. Yeah, you can rebind a Power BI report. So rebinding mostly is you have a Power BI report and a data set. You can detach a data set and attach it to a different Power BI report. Be careful with that, but yeah, you can do it. You can download Power BI reports directly, maybe in PDF, PNG, or the PBIX file. So you can do many, many things. Also, keeping track of who did what and when. So activity management. I'm gonna leave here a link if you want to check out all the different APIs that are available from Microsoft side. So yeah, Power BI REST APIs entirely worth it. Maybe at the beginning it's overwhelming, and yes, I know because I'm a BI developer, so I'm used to DAX, T-SQL, maybe a little bit of ETL, but no developing like with .NET or C# languages. So the first time that I saw Power BI REST APIs, I was like, no, this is not for me. I'm gonna stick to DAX reporting and that's it. But once you understand just the basics that I'm going to share with you, you will be able to do so much more. Of course, not building an application in .NET, but you're gonna have the knowledge to understand the basics and maybe use the APIs to manage your tenant. So how do we interrogate these amazing APIs? So as I said, I'm gonna show you 3 ways. There are many other ways. Starting from the simplest one, that is the try it button directly available in the Microsoft page. Then we are going to move to Power BI Desktop and finally to Postman. So what is the let's try it button? Actually, the name is try it. Okay. Let's see. So this is a Microsoft page. I'm going to zoom a little bit. Okay, this is the URL. And in here, you have all the APIs that are available out there for Power BI, of course. So there are the admin APIs right here. So you can see, for example, all the reports, all the workspaces that are available on your tenant. And these other APIs, for example, I'm using groups. All these other APIs are not admins. So you're only going to see what you are able to see. Because if you're not a Power BI admin, you're just going to see, for example, your reports, the workspaces that you have access to, etc. So one thing that I want to mention, though, is that groups is the old name for workspaces. Yeah, I don't know why the name is still groups. But if you want to have information about workspaces, that is what we are going to do right now. Yeah, the API is group. So as I was saying, one way to interrogate the APIs is to use this try it button right here. So almost every single API has this button. And if you are logged in, I'm logged in right here. You can see this is my username. Basically, I'm using the Microsoft 365 developer program that is entirely free from Microsoft. So you can have your own tenant for developing purposes to, I don't know, to play around. So I have this Microsoft 365 developer program that I totally recommend you to do it. So I'm already logged in and I want to have a look at all the workspaces groups that I have access to. So I'm going to hit try it and let's see if it works. Continue with this account. So basically this is a API get request. There are different methods. So get, post that we're gonna later see. Also parameters with we are not gonna use those. We are gonna stick to the high level. Here, this is a preview. So basically, this is again the API that we're using. So we're using api.powerbi.com. We are interrogating all the workspaces groups that I have access to. And this is very important. Below, we can see an authorization token. This token is the key. So Microsoft realized who are you, right? So Microsoft knows that I'm Victor, so I'm going to see just my workspaces. If I hit run, response code is 200. 200 means that it's okay. Here I have the result here, body as a JSON file. So I can see here all the workspaces that I have access to, type workspace, because previously there used to be 2 versions of workspaces. And now there is just the second version that is workspace. So all the other ones that I think they were called groups are legacy, so we don't even use them anymore. So type, it is going to be always in workspace. Name, for example, I have access to the marketing workspace, sales workspace, test XML workspace, whatever. And if you don't believe me, let's go to Power BI. I'm already logged in as Victor. And I have a look at all the workspaces that I have access to. And as you can see, LinkedIn, sales, what else? Text, test, XMLA. So I have all the list of the workspaces. Sorry, it was this one. Okay. I think that so far so good. Pretty easy just to use the try it button. Not that difficult. So let's see how it is done in Power BI Desktop, and then I stop for questions. So what I'm gonna need to interrogate this API from Power BI Desktop is this, let's say, URL, HTTPS, right? This is the API request. So I'm going to copy, and let's go to Power BI Desktop. So to call APIs in Power BI Desktop, you can use, as you know, maybe the web connector. So I'm going to click Get Data and Web Connector. As the URL, I'm going to paste the API request. This is a GET request, I repeat. And then I need to click Advanced right here. Why? Because I need to impersonate Victor, right, with the bearer token, with the token that Microsoft generated for me. One important thing about this authorization token is that it always, as far as I have seen in my entire life, it always starts with EY. That is going to be important in a few minutes. So back into Power BI, we need to tell powerbi.com who we are. So I'm going to type down authorization, and simply I'm going to copy and paste the authorization token. It is important that you also copy the bearer text because it is a bearer token, right? So I pasted it, and as you can see, at the beginning we have bearer space and then EY, so the token finally starts. Let's see if it works. I hit OK. And here we can use anonymous, right? Because we are already using the key, the token. So we don't have to log in against Windows, Basic, whatever. Because sometimes something that I saw from the different Microsoft customers is that they used to use Web API, right? Because we're using API, so you have to log in using Web API. No, you already use the token. All right, so I'm going to continue with anonymous because, as I said, I already typed down the bearer token manually. And here it is in my other screen, just one sec. Here it is. So this is the result of the Power BI REST API. All of these are the workspaces that I have access to. So as you can see, LinkedIn, right? Sales, marketing, test, XMLA, whatever. So yeah, we can interrogate the REST APIs directly from Power BI if you have the token. One thing though, before stopping for questions, is that you can also get the token in a different way. It is not mandatory that you come here, you click try it, and you get the authorization bearer token. Another way of doing it is if you're in Power BI, so app.powerbi.com, they use the usual website, you can hit F12 or where is it? More tools, developer tools, right? You can do it either in Google Chrome or also here on Edge. It is the same as pressing F12, so Open Dev Tools. And here you can see all the traffic between this website, right? And let's say the Microsoft backend side. So the important two buttons here are these two, because the first one is going to record and the other one can clear everything. Let me show you. So if I hit F5 or if I refresh it, the page, you can see all the APIs that are sent, right? I'm recording. Once I'm done, I can pause from this button, right? And if I want to clear it, I can hit this button, clear. So let's do it again, right? I'm gonna start recording. I'm going to hit F5 to refresh the page. All right, it's done. And I can look for the bearer token. Just with Control F, Control Find, I can look for EY. Do you remember that I said that every single token starts with EY? Well, you can do that trick and look for EY. So here it is, the authorization token, and here is the bearer token. This token is the very same that you see here, the Microsoft page. It is very long, but yeah, it is that one. That is another way of getting the bearer token. There is another that we're going to share in a few minutes that is using server principal or master account. Okay, so I gotta stop here before going to Postman to address some question if you have some.
Yeah, we don't have any questions yet, but it's very easy to follow your session. So I'm assuming that people are just following along happily. But just to note for anyone who joined later, if you have any questions, please use the chat and we'll make sure to pass them on whenever Victor is ready for questions.
Great, so I'm gonna move forward to Postman. Let's see. So here is the presentation. So now we are finally going to start with Postman. This is the Postman logo. That's why it is here. As I said, Postman is a free tool. It's like, I don't know if compare it to Tabular Editor because, well, Tabular Editor 3, you have to pay. So sort of, right? You can use it for free, like Tabular Editor 2, Postman, directly online on their website, or you can download the application. That's what I did. And why we bother using Postman? Well, the thing is that here is the spoiler of what we're gonna do. The thing is that we are getting a token, right, through Microsoft page or through the Power BI page. And so that token lasts 1 hour, right? So we should, in theory, go to Microsoft page or Power BI and grab that token every single hour. It doesn't make any sense, right? And also, it is impersonating us, in this case, myself, right, Victor. So there is one better way of doing it, that is through the use of either master account or service principal. We're going to start with service principal. That is a sort of app built in Azure, right? That it doesn't impersonate myself, but it's a service account, let's say. Service principal is like a service account. So we're going to use that service principal to get the token, and with the token we can make use of all the APIs. So let me repeat myself. 5 minutes ago we were impersonating myself because it was myself, the one who was interacting with API and PowerBI.com or the Microsoft page, right? That token lasts 1 hour. Now we are going to grab the token, but with a service principal. So how do we get the token with the service principal? Let's do it together from scratch. So this is Postman, and I'm going to create a new tab. the first API that we send is not a get, it's a post. This post API is the one that is going to give us the authorization token, the bearer token. So we set the API as a post, and this, if you want to, I can copy and paste it in the chat. This is the URL. You remember that we were using the other URL was, let me show you. This one for groups. Well, in this case, it is entirely different. Let me talk a little bit about this URL. Yeah, I'm going to paste it in the chat. So this is a URL, and yeah, it can look a little bit complicated at first, but it's not that complex. This part right here is your tenant ID. I'm going to show you how to get your tenant ID, right? And we need to log in against Microsoft, right, using the service principal. Mainly, what we will need is the following. So I'm going to send this request, this post request to Power BI, and I need to impersonate the service principal. Just one sec, that it all the time forget when I can leave it right here. There is a username and password, but it doesn't matter. You can use it if you want to, because it is Microsoft 365 developer program. So the first parameter that we are going to use is grant type. Then the other parameter that we are going to use is resource. Then client ID. And this is the reason why I use Postman, because it is so easy to follow. So the grant type, there are two grant types. Here they are, either client credentials or password. Don't worry if you don't understand right now, because I'm going to repeat with a diagram in PowerPoint. So the grant type is client credentials. Basically, grant type tells Microsoft if we are going to use either a service principal or a master account. If it is client credentials, it is a service principal. Resource is always this link, this URL. And what we are saying is that we are going to log in as a service principal against analysis.windows.net. Finally, we need these two IDs, client ID and client secret. And this is when it gets tricky, because we have to create a service principal on Azure to be able to send this API request. So how do we create an app, a service principal on Azure? It is entirely free, so you don't have to pay to build an app. And I'm going to show you how it is done. So here in portal.azure.com, we can easily create an app with app registration, or type in right here, app registration is the same as I'm sure you already know. I already have an app because I was testing it, right? First app, second app. And let's do a new one. Let's create. So I hit create a new app, and let's call it, I don't know, new stars, right? So I just leave it for this tenant only, so it is not multi-tenant, and I just hit register, as easy as that. So here is the app. As you can see, it is new stars. That is the name that we gave to it. And here we have the ID that we need. So the tenant ID, do you remember that in the URL, we were needing the tenant ID? It is this one. So I can copy, and where is it? Paste it right here in this part. So this is the tenant ID of my tenant. Another way of getting the tenant ID from Power BI is through the help and support button. You can come to the final part that is about Power BI. And in here, you have the tenant URL. After this CTID, this is the very same tenant ID. As you can see, 1F54. It is the same as here, 1F54. So maybe there are other ways, but these are the ones that I use, either when I create the app or directly in Power BI. So far, so good. We have the tenant ID right here, but we need the client ID and client secret. Thank you, Catherine. So the client ID, I love it when Microsoft changes the names. So the client ID is the same as application ID. I don't know why there are two different names, but it is the very same thing. As you can see, application and in parentheses, client. So this is the client ID, the application ID that we need. For the moment, I'm going to paste it right here so we can use it over and over again. But I'm going also to paste it here in Postman. And we need the client secret. So we needed three IDs, the tenant ID, the client ID, and the client secret. The client secret is a little bit more complex, but not that complex because we have to create one. How do we create one? Again, we are in app registrations. And here, if you see, we have certificate and secrets. So we have to come here and we have to generate a new secret. How do we do that? Well, you simply hit new client secret. New client secret. I'm going to name it, I don't know, Victor. It doesn't matter the name at all. And I can select when it expires. I'm gonna leave it that way, 180 days. So what we need is not the ID. This is very important. What we need is the value. So I can copy the value. I'm gonna paste it here. And also in Postman. So now we're good to go. But before hitting send, one thing that I want to mention is that this value right here, you're going to be able to see just like for 5-10 minutes. So if you don't copy it, you're going to lose it. So please, once you generate it, copy it, please. Otherwise, you will need to generate a new client secret. So just copy the value as soon as you see it. Later, we are going to get back here and try to copy it. It won't be visible. Okay, let's see if it is working. Okay, send. Nice. So it works. Voila. Wow. Yeah, it works because we did it right. But if I type down here password, that was the other option, right? It doesn't work. That's what I wanted to show you, right? I mean, of course it is going to work because we're doing this presentation, right? But if you do something differently, it is not going to work. And you're going to face 400 bad requests or 403 forbidden, whatever. So it works. You can generate this token as many times as you want, I think. Now, maybe there is a maximum, but I haven't reached it so far. So this is the access token. And let's use this API. That is the same that we were using on Microsoft page, the one regarding the workspaces, so the groups. As you remember, when we call an API, get API, we have to tell Microsoft who we are through the use of the token. I already copied the authorization token, and I can use it here in authorization. The type is the bearer token, so I don't have to type down bearer space like on Power BI desktop. I'm going to paste it right here, and let's see. Unauthorized. Wow. And this is when I get also a ticket, right? Saying that, well, Victor, it doesn't work. Please help me because we are not done yet. Yes, it's, it's a little bit complex, right? Because we are sending a post request. Where is it? Was this one? Or this one? So we are sending a post request. We created the app and it doesn't work at the end of the day. So I'm start to get frustrated, right? Because it doesn't work. Where is it? The get. Here it is. Well, the thing is that we are missing one single step. So we created everything on Azure, almost everything, but we also have to go to the admin portal of Power BI, and we have to tell Power BI, listen, please give access to this app so I can call the APIs, right? Because not every single app that I create are automatically authorized to call the APIs. So how do we do that? You come here to, yeah, I repeat, maybe this is a little bit complex, but I'm going to show you in a little diagram what we have done so far. And I think that it will make sense a lot. So again, I have to come to the admin portal. I think that we all know how to come here. And we need two options. Those two options are allow service principals to use Power BI APIs, right? It makes sense. This is the first one. And the other one is if you want to use read-only admin APIs, also you have to tell Power BI, listen, this app is going to be calling APIs. Again, in the list of APIs that we have, right, we have the admin ones and the other ones. Okay, so let's do it. First, we have to allow service principal to use Power BI APIs. And we can do the entire organization, which is not best practice, of course, or we can select specific security group. This is a keyword, security group, not app, security group. So we have to create a security group. And as a member, the security group will have the app that we created. And finally, right, I can type it here so I can give access to the security group. So let's do it. Let's create this security group and add these new stars that is the app as a member. So let's go back to home and I can create a security group here on groups, or I can type down groups. So I need to create a new group. Right? The group type is security, remember, not Microsoft 365, security. The group name is new stars SG, that stands for security group. Right? And that's it, I created. So I'm going to refresh it, it's going to appear here sometime. Here it is. So now on my list of groups, I have the new star security group. It is a security group, as you can see right here. In this security group, I need to add the app. So I click on the security group, and here in members, I need to add the app. Members, add members. Let's add the app, which is new stars. Here it is, enterprise application. Right, so we add the app. And to refresh, here it is. So this is the app, so the service principal. And we finally have the group with the app on it. Okay, let's go back to Power BI. So I add here the security group that we just created. New star security group. Apply. Nice. And I'm going to also add here the security group for read-only admin API. So we can use one read-only admin API. Again, here, new stars, apply. Now let's see if it works. Okay, we have done everything right on the Power BI and Azure portal. Where is it? It is this one. So I'm going to create a new access token and let's try. Okay. And it works. Status 200, okay. I don't see anything here because this service principal doesn't have access to any workspace. If I give access to the service principal or security group, it is going to appear here. So far, so good because we have the 200 status. Okay, means that is great. Just to show you, for example, here in sales, I'm going to add this, this service principal. New stars. No, not here. Add people or groups. New stars. I'm adding the service principal. New stars and adding the application as a viewer. So now we have it right here. We have Megan, myself, new stars. So now let's see. I'm going to run the API again. And voila, I have access to sales. One final thing though, before doing the recap, is that it doesn't make more sense, right, to add the application as a viewer for every single workspace. So generally, we use the service principal to call read-only admin APIs. And I have it right here, right? This is a little bit different compared to the API that we were calling, because as you can see, this is the API that we were calling. It doesn't have admin or anything in the URL. While in this one, I have the admin. Okay, so as an admin, I gotta be able to see all the workspaces in my tenant because I just gave the right permissions in the admin portal of Power BI. So in authorization again, I'm going to use the authorization token from the service principal. And here I have all the workspaces, even my workspace, personal group, my workspace, and you have marketing, sales, LinkedIn, whatever. Right here it is LinkedIn. That is the name of the workspace. So with the service principal, I can call both admin and not admin APIs. So let's see, recap really fast. So this is the little diagram that I was talking about. So remember, to use a service principal, we have to create an app. In the app, we need three different IDs. The tenant ID that I show you two ways, right? Directly in Power BI or when you create the app. The application ID and the secret value that you get just once. Now we are going to see that we are not able to see it again. Then we create a security group. We add the app as a member. And finally, in the admin portal, we add the service group here and here. So before stopping for questions, let's see. Let's go back to the application to see if we can see the value. So it was new stars. And I'm not able to see the value. I cannot even copy it. I lost it. I will have to create a new client secret. Okay. So I stop for questions, and then we move forward to master user. Questions. In addition to being Power BI admin, what access role do we need in Azure to manage the app and security group? That is a very good question. what I have seen so far is that being just a Power BI admin lets you to create an app, and that's it. So the tricky part, so this question is also related, I think, with the master user, because the master user is a little bit different. And now I'm moving forward. Because the master user, we need different permissions in Azure. So in Azure, sometimes we even need global admin permissions for the master user. For the service principal, you don't need them. But for the master users, yes, you do need some higher permissions on the Azure portal. All right. Catherine, maybe any other question?
Yep. No questions that I see so far. Just a few more comments with more information from the Microsoft Docs. And again, if anyone else have any questions, feel free to type them in chat or raise your hand, and you can also unmute and ask if you're comfortable doing that.
Right. So now let's talk about the master user. So until I think 2019, service principal didn't exist. It was just master user. Let me show you. I mean, I don't have time right now to set the master user account and show you all the permissions, etc. But I just want to show you, right? The first step, instead of being a service principal, being a master user, how it changes. So I already prepared it right here. Let me see. So this is the service principal. We had the, this is a different tenant, but the pattern is the same. So we had grant type credentials, the client ID, and the client secret, right? We already did it like 20 minutes ago. Instead, with the master user, right, it is different. So you can get a bearer token as a master user. And I'm going to repeat myself. This is the old way. The new way is through service principal. As you can see, the URL is different because we have common. We don't have the tenant ID. Why? Because as a grant type, we are using password, right, instead of client credentials. So basically, what we are doing, sort of, is like going to the Power BI portal, right, and type it down our username and password. As you can see here, the password and the username clearly. So that's why we don't need the tenant ID, right? Because when we go to app.powerbi.com, we don't tell Power BI this is our tenant ID. No, we don't do that. That's why we don't need the tenant ID right here. So the difference, as I said, is that the grant type is password, and we also need an application. We don't need a security group in this case. Everything is done through the Azure portal, right? And we need an username and a password. Yeah, that is the old way. And all the permissions that were given for the service principal through the admin portal are now given through Azure. Let me show you. So for the master account here in the registration, because again, for the master account, we don't need the security group. We just need the app. We can give the permissions through the API permissions. And this is, again, something that is done, let's say, wrongly, because people think that when they use a service principal, they need to give permissions right here in the API permissions. And no, the permissions for the service principal are just given through the admin portal in Power BI, while for the master account, the permissions are given here, not in the admin portal of Power BI. So for master account, you need to create an app, and in the app, you come here to API permissions, you can add a permission, right? The permission that you need is right here, Power BI service, and you give the permissions, delegated permissions, and here they are for data flow, data sets, whatever. And there are also admin. Where are them? Tenant. These are the admin ones for tenant, tenant read all, tenant read write all. So I could go for it and add permissions, right? Let me just show you one thing that for tenant read all, tenant read write all, I need someone else consent, a global admin consent. It is not just up to me, right, to give the right permissions to the application. So I don't have time right now to show you that it actually works for the master account once I give the right API permissions. But yeah, that's the difference mainly. So a little recap about that. So for service principal, don't give permission in Azure, just give permission in the admin portal, right? And it can't use all APIs. That is one very important point. Let's click here. From the Microsoft page, we can see all the supported APIs for the service principal. Right. Again, it's in the PowerPoint presentation if you want to have a look at it. While for the master user, you just give permissions in Azure, not in the admin portal. Otherwise, you will get an error. So as a recap, right, to call the APIs, it can be any API. You can get the token, right, either as a, either as a service principal, and you can tell that this is the service principal because we have the tenant ID, or as a master user, and you know that is a master user because here we have common. Once you have the token, you can use it as an authorization to call the other API. All right. So if you want to know more about APIs, I started to understand finally this amazing world of REST APIs thanks to BI Elite. BI Elite is an MVP, Microsoft MVP, Microsoft. I don't remember. Most valuable professional, I think. So he has a YouTube channel that I entirely recommend. And here there are 4 parts of a video that show you how to keep track of your tenant activity. So who did what and when. So he's going to show you how to get the token, how to properly set the service principal, right? And how to refresh it directly in Power BI desktop. I entirely recommend you to see it. And that's pretty much it, people. So now I think that you are a superstar regarding Power BI REST APIs and you know how to configure them. Thank you so much.